It started with a twitch, just a small one, in the corner of my eye. I thought it was nothing. Stress, maybe? Or too much caffeine? But then, it happened again. And again. And soon, it wasn't just me.
Did you see that?
That was my roommate. We were sitting in the living room watching some old horror movie. He was staring at the TV, but his voice sounded off.
Something moved over there in the corner.
I followed his gaze. The corner of the room was dark, just shadows. But for a second, I thought I saw something shift, like a ripple in the air.
You saw it too, right?
I didn't answer. I didn't want to admit it, but I had seen it. And now I couldn't stop seeing it. The next day, I noticed it everywhere, little movements, just out of sight. A flicker in the mirror, a shadow darting across the wall. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but then I started hearing them.
Did you hear that?
My roommate was standing in the kitchen, staring at the ceiling. His face was pale, his eyes wide.
It's like scratching, like something's trying to get in.
I listened. At first, there was nothing. Then, faintly, I heard it. A soft, rhythmic scraping. It was coming from above us.
What the hell is that?
We both froze. The sound grew louder, more insistent, and then it stopped. Just like that. The silence was worse. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt it. Something watching me. Something waiting. I turned on the light, but the room was empty. Except for the corner. There, in the shadows, something moved. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A twitch, a flicker, and then it was gone. The next morning, my roommate was gone. His bed was made, his things untouched, but he wasn't there. I called his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried to convince myself he'd just gone out early, but deep down I knew something was wrong. I spent the day searching for him. I called his friends, his family. No one had seen him. By nightfall, I was exhausted. I sat down on the couch, staring at the TV. The screen was off, but I could see my reflection in the glass. And behind me, in the corner of the room, something moved. I spun around, but there was nothing there, just the shadows. But I could feel it. Something was in the room with me, something that didn't belong. I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there. Not alone. I drove aimlessly, trying to clear my head. But no matter where I went, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I ended up at a diner on the edge of town. It was late and the place was nearly empty. I sat at the counter, nursing a cup of coffee. The waitress, a woman in her 40s, gave me a sympathetic smile.
Rough night?
I nodded, but I didn't say anything. I didn't know how to explain what was happening. How do you tell someone you're being haunted by whatever this was?
You're not the only one, you know.
I looked up at her. Her expression was serious now, her eyes dark.
There's something going on. People are seeing things, hearing things, and some of them, they're disappearing.
My stomach dropped. I wanted to ask her more, but before I could, the lights flickered. The diner went dark for a moment, and when the lights came back on, the waitress was gone. I stood up, my heart pounding. The diner was empty. The other customers, the cook, the waitress, all gone. And then, I heard it. That same scratching sound coming from the kitchen. I didn't wait to see what was making it. I ran. I didn't stop until I was back in my car, driving as fast as I could, but no matter how far I went, I couldn't escape it. The twitching, the shadows, the feeling that something was always just out of sight. I ended up back at my apartment. I didn't want to go inside, but I didn't know where else to go. I stood in the doorway staring into the dark living room, and then I saw it. In the corner, something moved. It was small at first, just a flicker. But then it grew, stretching and twisting until it filled the entire corner. It was a shadow, but not like any shadow I'd ever seen. It was alive, and it was looking at me. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was frozen, staring into the darkness as it reached out for me. And then, just as it was about to touch me, it stopped. The shadow twitched. Once, twice, and then it was gone. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. My heart was racing, my hands trembling, but the worst part wasn't the fear. It was the realization. The shadow wasn't gone. It was inside me. I could feel it moving beneath my skin. A twitch, a flicker, and then it was still, waiting. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the corner of the room, but eventually I got up. I didn't know what else to do. I went to bed, hoping that when I woke up it would all be a dream, but it wasn't. The next morning I woke up to the sound of scratching. It was coming from the mirror. I looked at my reflection, and for a moment everything seemed normal. But then I saw it. In the corner of the mirror something moved. A shadow, and as I watched, it reached out, touching the glass, and then it was gone. I don't know how much longer I have. The twitching is getting worse. I can feel it moving inside me, growing strong, and I know, sooner or later, it's going to take over. But until then, I'll keep writing. I'll keep telling my story. 'Cause if you're reading this, if you're hearing this, then you need to know. You're not alone. They're everywhere. The Twitchers. And they're coming for you. So if you see something move, just out of sight, don't ignore it. End it. It's not there. Because it is. And it's watching you. And soon, it will be inside you too.